Hello there! In this lesson, we're going to look at 3 high-stakes English exams. PTE Academic, IELTS Academic, and TOEFL iBT. And I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive, an unbiased deep dive into these 3 exams so you can find out which one is the best one for you. Okay? Let's take a look. So what we're going to do is, again, look at PTE Academic, IELTS Academic, TOEFL iBT. We're going to focus specifically on the speaking and writing sections because they're the hardest ones. We're going to look at the content and format between the 3 tests. We're going to compare the computer-based test versus the paper-based tests. We'll also look at the task lengths, the difficulty, the scoring, and how you can prepare best. By the way, I should mention that if you want to know more about this, if you want to deep dive even further into a comparison of these 3 tests, then listen to the podcast that I do with Alex and Siley. Alex is an IELTS expert. Siley is a TOEFL expert. I know everything there is to know about English language exams. Not true. I know a bit. We have a discussion and go in depth into these exams. So check it out on E2 Talks, which you can find on your favorite podcast channel thing. Okay, let's focus on speaking first. Okay, so of course, in these tests, all 3 of these tests, they test you on 4 skills: speaking, writing, reading, and listening. Let's focus on speaking. And just briefly, just so you understand the complexity of what speaking actually means, take a look at this little diagram here. Speaking here, you'll be speaking in an academic context, which changes the game. You'll be assessed on pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. Pronunciation refers to the sounds that you make, and there are other features to pronunciation such as word stress, etc. You'll be tested on vocab, including your precision of the words you choose, the range, that is how broad your vocabulary is, grammatical accuracy, and again, grammatical range, that is the breadth of your grammar as well, so you can be flexible when you speak. So they all test you on these things broadly. Let's take a look at PTE Academic Speaking in more detail. So PTE Academic Speaking has 5 different tasks. Let's take a look at the first one. It's called Read Aloud. What you have to do, and this is the first task of the PTE Academic test, is you have to read a paragraph aloud. Pretty cool, hey? Not too difficult. You get to read it once as a rehearsal, then you read it again. Of course, it's not that simple because there's a certain way that you need to read it in order to maximize your scores, but that's for another day. The second speaking task is called Repeat Sentence. It looks like this. What happens is you're going to hear a single sentence, you'll listen very carefully, then you'll repeat the sentence back exactly as it was said, including the same vocab, grammar, and also the same sort of delivery style, the same intonation, etc. Again, more of that another day. The third speaking task on PTE Academic is called Describe Image, and it looks like this. What happens is you'll have 25 seconds to look at that image, then you'll have 40 seconds to describe the image in some level of detail, okay? And remember, on PTE Academic, you don't just get one task, you'll get a number of read alouds, a number of repeat sentences, a number of describe images, etc. The fourth speaking task in PTE Academic is called Retell Lecture. It looks like this. What happens is you're going to hear a lecture or an interview. You'll be taking notes. Then you'll have 10 seconds to prepare after that lecture or interview finishes. And then you'll retell the lecture in your own words in under 40 seconds. This is where it starts to get pretty tricky in PTE Academic, pretty challenging. And the final speaking task of PTE Academic is called Answer Short Question, where you need to answer a short question. Looks like this. You'll hear a question and you just answer in 1 or 2 words. Cool. That, in short, is PTE Academic Speaking. Now, how is it scored? Well, actually, not how is it scored. How many points do you get? You get a score of between 10 and 90. So you might get a 75 or a 12 or something like that. And it's worth noting that PTE Academic Speaking is entirely marked by an algorithm, not a human brain. okay? Which we'll talk about the pros and cons of that coming up. Okay, let's take a close look at IELTS Speaking. Now, this is IELTS Academic and IELTS General have the same speaking task. There's no difference if you're taking one of those exams, okay? IELTS Speaking looks like this. Well, it doesn't actually look like this. It looks like a human being because you're going to be talking to a person, not a computer. There are 3 parts. There's small talk, a 2-minute monologue, and an in-depth discussion. Small talk is where the examiner will ask you just sort of very straightforward questions like, do you study or do you work? Tell me about where you live. Do you live in an apartment or a house? They sort of very, very straightforward questions like this. Do you like the rain? Very strange questions sometimes. And you have to say, yes, I like the rain. But you also have to elaborate on why. Part 2 of IELTS Speaking gets quite challenging. This is where you need to deliver a 2-minute speech. You can call it a speech if you like. You have to talk for 2 minutes. You'll get 1 minute to prepare. They give you like a task card and you have a topic to talk about. And you get 1 minute to prepare and take notes. And then you have to speak about that topic for up to 2 minutes. And that's a real challenge. Part 3 is an extension of the topic that you did in part 2. So say, for example, you had to talk about, I don't know, a gift in part 2 for 2 minutes, a gift that you once received. In part 3, there might be lots of questions about advertising, sort of relating to gifts. And part 3 is where it gets quite in-depth and philosophical. The questions are much more complex and you need to think much more critically and therefore exercise in your answer, better vocabulary, more complex grammar, etc. in order to score highly. So you are scored by a person in the moment. So that examiner is going to be asking you the questions and taking notes and scoring you in the moment. And you'll be scored between 0, that means you don't say anything at all, and 9, which means you just deliver incredible Barack Obama type of answers. Yes, let's not get into politics. But you'll be scored in increments of 0.5. So you might get like a 7.5 or an 8 or an 8.5, for example. And there are some limitations with just having a human examiner, but we'll talk about that coming up. The next exam is TOEFL iBT, and here's how it works. You'll have what's called independent speaking tasks and integrated speaking tasks, or should I say an independent speaking task and integrated speaking tasks, plural. So these are quite short tasks where you get a little bit of time to prepare. Might just ask you a single question that you have to talk about. You'll get maybe 15 to 30 seconds to prepare, and then you have to speak on give an answer, which will be 45 to 60 seconds. With the integrated speaking tasks, you'll listen to something and you'll read something and then you need to speak about them, okay? Okay, so in TOEFL, you're scored between 0 and 30 points, okay? In increments of 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. up to 30. Now, TOEFL's cool because it scores you via an algorithm and a person, a human being, will also be assessing you as well. Interesting thing is with TOEFL, you're not actually on test day speaking to a person, you'll be speaking to the computer, okay? But those answers will be sent. They will be sent to the algorithm and they'll be sent to a person who will do the marking, and then they sort of use both of them to derive your score. In fact, I think there are 2 different examiners that assess the one piece of speaking. Cool, so let's do a little comparison of the 3 tests and those tasks and the format, the marking, whether it's interactive, the scoring, and the length. So PTE Academic is a computer-based test. It's marked via an algorithm. It's not interactive. This means there's no back and forth dialogue, 2 people speaking. It's you speaking into the computer. Like you're describing an image, then you're retelling a lecture, or you're reading aloud, but there's no back and forth. So there's no listening involved, except for in retell lecture, because you have to listen to that lecture. Anyway, so there's no person involved, no interactivity. And as I mentioned, you're scored between 10 and 90, and it takes about 15 minutes, that part of the test. In IELTS, it is a human format, person, and it's human marked, and it is interactive. It's back and forth. It's dialogic, two people speaking. Scored between 0 and 9, and it goes for between 11 to 14 minutes. Should say minutes there. TOEFL iBT is computer-based, so there's no person involved. It's just you and the computer. It's marked via both an algorithm and a human. It's not interactive, scored between 0 and 30, and it goes for about 17 minutes in total. Cool, so that's the speaking tasks compared between those 3 tests. Okay, let's think for a little bit about the difference between algorithms, algorithm, versus humans. So, how accurate are they? Well, algorithms are good at assessing speaking. Are they perfect? No. Are they bad? No. They're pretty good. They're pretty accurate. They're certainly, what's the word? Consistent, okay, which is a good thing. Humans, are they accurate? Depends. Depends how well trained that examiner is. It depends if that examiner is familiar with your particular accent. Say, for example, you have a South Indian accent. You speak Malayalam as your first language, right? And the examiner does too. Well, they're going to be able to understand you a lot more easily than if you get, say, an examiner from New Zealand who has never heard Malayalam speaking English or Malayali speaking English, right? So there are some pros and cons there. So I'm going to say it depends on how accurate they are. They're certainly well trained, but it depends. They also get tired, they get hungry, etc. Biases, so of course some. Now algorithms are not free of biases, okay? That's not true because you need to create an algorithm or the scoring mechanism, and when you do that, you might be including biases in the algorithm that you can't get out unless you train the algorithm further. So there are biases in the algorithm. Yes, there are. Are there biases in the human? Yes, there are. There's not much you can do about that. Are they reliable? Well, that means let's think about reliability in that they're consistent with their scoring. Algorithms are entirely consistent. Are you reliable though? Because some days you'll speak very clearly and very fluently and you'll find yourself having access to vocabulary and grammar. And some days you will wake up on the wrong side of the bed and be not so reliable. Your speech might not be as good as it was yesterday, okay? So it's kind of difficult. If you do take PTE, for example, and your scores will fluctuate, that will really depend on you. Humans, are they reliable? Somewhat, not too bad. Let's not go into it, but not too bad. Anyway, there's room for improvement with both of these things here, algorithms and people. How do you prepare for the speaking section of your test? Well, there's a few different things you need to think of. First of all, you need to think about fundamental skills, okay? Fundamental skills in speaking are vocabulary, the words, the grammar, that is the rules that govern the words, and the pronunciation, the sounds that you make, the clarity of your speech. They're the fundamental skills, okay? Once you've got them down, then you need to think about test prep. And with test prep, what you're thinking about is task familiarization. That is, do you get IELTS Speaking Part 2? Do you know a structure for retail lecture in PTE Academic? Do you know how to do the TOEFL integrated speaking, for example? And that is method as well. Methods include structures and not templates, but ways to approach the question, okay? Step-by-step approaches are really helpful and powerful. Application, you need to do it. You need to practice it. But the best thing you can do is get feedback on your speaking, okay? Especially if you aren't getting the scores you need. If you have an expert teacher, somebody who can listen to a recording or meet you in face-to-face or on Zoom, for example, that's the best thing you can do. So just on that, if you are preparing for any of these tests, then check out e2language.com because we have preparation courses for PTE Academic, IELTS Academic, IELTS General, TOEFL, and also OET as well. One of the things that you can do in our courses is take one-on-one tutorials with the teacher. These are very powerful ways to improve your speaking. We can also we assess your speaking, where you'll do a recording and you'll submit it through the computer. Our expert teachers will then give you an assessment. They'll listen to you carefully, tell you exactly what you need to do to boost your scores before you take the exam. So check out e2language.com. Okay, let's talk about writing, because writing, according to the statistics, at least one of these tests that I'm thinking of, writing is the most difficult part by far. Most people fail or get a low score in the writing section. So this is important. Let's check this out. So as I mentioned before, you'll be scored in these tests on all 4 skills. Let's talk about writing. Now, first of all, what is writing? What does that mean? What are you scored on? What does it consist of? Well, you'll be writing in a social context. It'll be an academic social context, because these exams will take you to university, for example. Writing consists of vocab, grammar, and structure. Vocabulary consists of range, that is how broad your vocabulary is, how precise it is, that is your word choice, and it also includes your spelling as well, because it's the vocab that you need to spell in writing. Grammar consists of accuracy, that is you're getting your plural nouns and your verb tenses and the preposition correct, and also the range, that is you can write well-constructed, that means you know all the verb tenses, you know all the different little thingamajiggies of grammar. Structure refers to broad level structure, like the essay, the overall essay structure, for example, paragraph structure, sentence structure, and sentence structure consists of punctuation, or has punctuation in it as well. So you can see here that writing is quite a complex phenomenon, okay? So let's dig in and take a look at PTE Academic Writing. So PTE Academic Writing, actually in the writing section of PTE, there are only 2 writing tasks, but there are other tasks that from other sections, from the listening section and reading section, that actually contribute points to your writing score as well. So they don't just all come from the writing section. These are called integrated scoring. There's integrated scoring in PTE Academic. That means you're doing one task, it might contribute points to writing and listening, for example. So the first one is called Summarize Written Text. It looks like this. What you have to do is you have to read that text carefully. You'll have 10 minutes to do this. And then what you do is you summarize it into one sentence, a single sentence summary. Not 2, not 3, not a paragraph, one sentence summary, okay? And this contributes points to both your reading and writing score. Next one is, of course, an essay. All of these exams require you to write an essay. The PTE Academic essay is always an argumentative / persuasive essay, okay? So you'll be given a question prompt and it'll be sort of somewhat controversial, or it will have 2 sides to the argument. You'll need to pick a side and argue for that side. You can mention the other side of the argument if you want. It's probably a good idea, but you'll be arguing for a side and certainly including your opinion throughout the essay. This one I think is, you write between 200 and 300 words, you have 20 minutes. Summarized spoken text is actually in the listening part of the exam, but there's a writing component to it. What happens is you'll listen to a lecture or an interview, you'll take notes, then you're going to write a summary of between 50 and 70 words. There's some other ones as well. Reading and writing, fill in the blanks, listening, fill in the blanks, and write from dictation come from the reading and listening sections. I won't go into them in detail. Please check out e2language.com if you've got any questions about those particular tasks, or if you want to understand the methods, get practice material, join the live classes, pass your test, check out e2language.com. Now, writing is scored, again, from 10 to 90, and again, it is scored entirely via a computer algorithm. There is no human being assessing your writing at all, okay? Machines. Let's take a closer look at IELTS Academic Writing. So in task 1, what you have to do is describe an image. That is, you're going to get a table, a chart, a diagram, a process, a graph, or even a map, or multiples of that. You might get 2 tables, 2 charts, a diagram, a process, 3 graphs, 2 maps, for example, it could be. And what you have to do is write a very concise sort of descriptive report of that image, whatever it is. There's very much a certain way that you write this, okay? You're not saying, wow, it has a lovely green line and a blue line and a pink. No. There's an academic way to write this particular description that really does require quite a bit of practice. It's not an easy thing to write, mainly because you have to be so concise with what you write. The word count is minimum 150 words. You can write more, you don't have to. You're not given more points to write more, but around, certainly above that. In task 2, you have to write minimum 250 word essay. Now, the essay prompts, unlike PTE Academic, the essay prompts differ. So there's different ones. There's advantages, disadvantages, opinions, problem solution, cause and effect. I can't remember, but there's a few other ones. Again, if you're preparing for IELTS, check out e2language.com. We'll take you through all of these essay prompts, all of these different question types, provide you with structures, model essays. You can get writing feedback, join the live classes. Best way to prepare for sure. Cool. Now, all up in total, you get 60 minutes to do those 2 tasks. So you should spend 20 minutes on task 1 and 40 minutes on task 2. You're scored between 0 and 9, just like before. And these are scored by people, human beings, I believe they're called. Okay, let's talk about TOEFL Writing. So TOEFL Writing has an integrated writing task where you will read, listen, and then write. And it has an independent writing task, which is pretty much an essay where you write an essay on personal experience or an opinion. I can't remember the word count of each of these off the top of my head, nor can I remember the timings. But if you are preparing for your TOEFL test, check out e2language.com. We've got lots of great courses on offer. If you need to take it in a short time, prepare in a short time, or you've got lots of time to prepare. If you want no feedback or lots of feedback, live classes, the whole works. Check it out. So the TOEFL Writing is scored from 0 to 30. And again, just like the speaking, they put it through an algorithm and they also put it through a human being's brain as well in order to derive the results. Okay, so let's do a quick comparison of the 3 tests. So PTE Academic, format, computer-based, marking, algorithm, word count. Well, summarize written text, 5 to 75 words, essay, 200 to 300 words, and summarize spoken text, 50 to 70 words. Time limit, 10 minutes for summarized written text, 20 minutes for the essay, 10 minutes for summarized spoken text, and you're scored between 10 and 90. But it also takes into account all of the other aspects of writing that I mentioned: grammar, vocabulary, structure, spelling, punctuation. These are all elements that you need to get right in order to get a good score. IELTS Academic. So you can take the paper-based test, or there is a computer-based test. And if you're taking IELTS, I highly recommend that you take the computer-based test if that option is available to you. And the reason is that with the writing section, if you're writing on paper, you can't edit your work easily, okay? If you want to move this part or add something in here, it's basically drawing lines, rubbing stuff out, and you have a time limit. On the computer, you put your cursor in there, you add something, you move a sentence, shift it around. It just makes the writing much more efficient. It's still the same question prompt, same level of difficulty, but the medium of the computer makes it way faster. And because you get to save time, you get to spend more time making sure that you've written correctly, on topic, grammatically, etc. It will be marked by a human. Even if you take the computer test, it's still sent to people who then mark it. Word count, 150 words or 250 words plus. Time limit, 20 minutes and 40 minutes, and scored between 0 and 9. Aha! Here's TOEFL and the scoring and timing. TOEFL, computer-based test, marked by an algorithm and a person, maybe even 2 people, I think. Word count between 150 and 225 for the integrated task. Around 300 for the independent essay task. 20 minutes on the integrated task, 30 minutes on your essay, scored between 0 and 30. So take a look at those 3 tests, have a look, see what sort of feels right for you. Which one do you like? So how do you prepare for writing in an English language exam? Well, again, just like speaking, you've got fundamental skills. These are primary ingredients that you need to get right, okay? There's no way you can, if you don't have vocabulary, large vocabulary, if you don't have grammar, and if you don't have structure, then it's problematic, okay? Sentence structure, for example, okay? You need to get that right first. You can do that, by the way, if you go to e2school.com. So this is a website that builds your fundamental skills for English language tests at e2school.com. If you've got those right, then you need to focus on test prep. Test prep includes, again, task familiarization. So what sort of essay prompts will you get in the IELTS? How should you structure the essay in PTE Academic? How does the integrated writing work in TOEFL? Then you've got methods and structures. Again, step-by-step approaches to each of these tasks. Application, you need to do practice questions, and feedback for writing is essential because you don't know what mistakes you're making, and only an expert, not your friend, not your mum, somebody who is actually really well versed in these exams can help you out there, okay? Because what's important here is the criteria. So these essays that we write, or that you write, the examiners and the algorithm are not just marking them thinking, oh, that looks good, let's just give that a 56. No, there's a certain criteria, certain checklist, if you like, that you need to meet all of these standards or exceed them in order to get a high score. And that's why a good teacher, like an E2 language teacher, is so essential. So check out e2language.com if you're preparing for one of these tests. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please click that subscribe button so you can get lots of great videos while you prepare for your test. That's all. See you later. My name is Jay. I'll see you soon. Hopefully see you on e2language.com.